It was a fresh morning of November 2021 when a team of IRS criminal investigators descended upon a $1 million lake house in the town of Gainesville, Georgia. During the raid, they would find a seemingly ordinary Cheetos popcorn tin in a bathroom closet. However, inside the tin was a single-board computer containing a sum of money most can only dream of achieving. A staggering $3.4 billion in Bitcoin. Knowingly or unknowingly, the IRS arrested one of the most wanted hackers in the whole world, who pulled the biggest Bitcoin heist in the US history. Today, let's delve into the story of one man who was so starved for social acceptance. He found an online scam hack and funded his lifestyle into buying friends he wished he had.
It was one of the biggest mysteries in crypto. Who stole 50,000 Bitcoins?
It's going to be a huge case, and there's a lot more money that we don't know about.
Jimmy, how do you feel after this today? Jimmy, you feel like the judge was fair today? Why'd you steal the money, Jimmy?
Who is this guy, Jimmy?
Chapter 1. Background of an outcast. So who was the famous James Jimmy Zhong, and why did he turn to a life of Bitcoin investing and eventually stealing? Jimmy's early life was far from ideal. He grew up in an environment where the absence of a strong father figure left a lasting impression on the young boy. His father, unable to secure steady employment, spent most of his time at home, contributing very little to the family's financial or even emotional stability. The burden of supporting the household fell on his mother, who worked hard to keep them fed. She found a job as an overnight nurse, and according to Jimmy, she was never awake. This imbalance created stress and uncertainty that weighed heavily on Jimmy's early years. School life was even worse for him. It was, in fact, another source of trauma. He was often targeted and bullied for his appearance, which had a very bad impact on his mental health and self-esteem. The continuous bullying and harassment made school a place of anxiety and exclusion rather than learning and growth for Jimmy.
Oh no, not another one. How many kids are they going to make me teach?
During his middle school, push came to shove when his parents eventually divorced. This social isolation turned Jimmy into an introvert, so he did what most of us in such situations do: escape to the online world. The internet eventually became Jimmy's second home and a place where he would not be judged for his appearance. However, despite all the social challenges, Jimmy was a really smart kid. Rewinding back to his school time, Jimmy graduated from Central Gwinnett School with a near-perfect SAT score, which earned him the prestigious Hope Scholarship. Something only the brightest of minds can pull. This would land him in the University of Georgia to study computer science. Something as big as this would surely impress his parents, right? Wrong. His parents didn't even care. So Jimmy moved away, an hour away from his family life, hoping to never see them again. Everything changed in 2009 when Jimmy stumbled upon Bitcoin. In perspective, Jimmy was a Bitcoin OG, one of the earliest adopters of the famed cryptocurrency. Mining these coins would earn him a couple hundred a day. But Jimmy wanted more. A lot more, hoping to live the life he always dreamed of and to fund his drinking lifestyle. That's right, Jimmy had a drinking problem, and it was probably the earliest thing that drove him to earn money for himself. Chapter 2. The biggest Bitcoin heist in US history. Initially, Jimmy mined a fair bit of Bitcoin, but since it didn't return much in form of money, he quit. Flashback to 2011, Bitcoin went up and Jimmy decided to get back in business. Sadly, he couldn't find the Bitcoin he mined in the earlier days, so Jimmy decided to earn some more, starting off by creating an account on the platform Bitcoin Talk. His first post on the platform was about mixing, a way of moving Bitcoin through a large number of transactions to make the digital trail extremely hard to follow. Since every transaction of the crypto was public, Jimmy wanted to remain anonymous, and while it wouldn't help him in the long run, the short-term benefits helped him a ton. Following a series of mining, gambling, and other transactions, Jimmy earned a good deal of Bitcoin, all of which would lead him towards a website that would completely change the course of US history. If you have ever researched into the dark web, chances are you already know about the infamous Silk Road. The website had every drug available, pornography material, and a whole lot of discreet stuff that people keep under the wraps. But to buy the product, you had to pay with Bitcoin. Jimmy, being a substance user, decided to buy his stuff online through Silk Road. However, After a couple transactions, he decided to withdraw his Bitcoin from the site. This was the moment that changed everything. You see, during the withdrawal, Jimmy accidentally clicked the withdraw button twice. To his surprise, both transactions went through, and yes, he received double his coins. He had just discovered a major coding flaw in the website, and later, this would lead to him being known worldwide. On the 12th of September, 2012, Jimmy decided to create another account on the Silkroad website. Sources claim his name was the Tormentor. He went through the same process again, and on the withdrawal screen, Jimmy did the double clicky thing he did initially. Again. To put into context, Jimmy deposited a sum of 500 Bitcoin in the website. On the withdrawal page, he clicked the button as fast as he could and managed to get in 5 clicks. It worked again, and Jimmy withdrew a total of 2,500 Bitcoin. Later in the day, he did it again and managed to get even more amount out. Now, obviously, this is not an infinite money glitch, and the extra Bitcoin had to have been coming from somewhere, right? That's absolutely right. In an attempt to secure the privacy and keep its users anonymous, Bitcoin implemented a tumbling service. In short, whenever you deposited Bitcoin into the website, it would combine with a bunch of other user deposits, then mixed around a little bit. In the next days, Jimmy continued to withdraw the cryptocurrency one after the other, till he managed to extract a huge sum from the site. However, this didn't go unnoticed, and one day, Jimmy received a message from the owner of the website himself, Dread Pirate Roberts. Instead of demanding the money back, the owner simply asked Jimmy how he was doing that. Most of us would just take our winnings and run away, but Jimmy just told him directly. What's even more surprising is the owner sent Jimmy more coins as a thank you. Chapter 3. Making mistakes. A twist in the story. Now, according to the Bitcoin value at that time, Jimmy was $1 million rich, and his lifestyle proved it. Revealing to others how he was one of the first ones to take Bitcoin seriously, Jimmy put the crypto's success as his scapegoat and lived a life of pure entertainment. He bought cars, houses, high-end clothes, everything money can buy, and he didn't just spend it on himself. Jimmy organized full-funded trips, parties and vacations for his friends, and even gave them Bitcoin for themselves. The outcast had finally achieved a life of his dreams, and he was planning to live it to the fullest until the days of reckoning came. It all started back in late October of 2013, when Silk Road was taken down by the authorities. The founder was arrested and put to trial. But in the proceedings of the shutdown, the FBI found the Silk Road's database, where Jimmy's schemes in the past were evident. From here on, Jimmy had a number of eyes searching for him. Years went by until one day, something completely unusual happened. Athens, Georgia, where the University of Georgia is located, typically sees common college town incidents like bar fights and minor break-ins. But on March 13th, 2019, police received an unusual 911 call that stood out from the routine. The caller was Jimmy, and he was known around town for his partying and nightlife. That night, he reported the theft of a huge sum of cryptocurrency from his home. Although distressed at the loss, he declined medical help and began explaining the situation to the dispatcher. This report would go on to unravel a mystery that law enforcement had been pursuing for nearly a decade. It ultimately led to solving one of the largest cryptocurrency heists in history and resulted in the biggest seizure of digital currency from an individual by the Department of Justice. While this case was never solved, it raised flags over the IRS, and they would soon come knocking. Chapter 4. Arrest and Proceedings. Pretty soon, IRS would look into Jimmy's IP and go through his transaction details to see what this guy was up to. Best part was, until then, Jimmy had not been using any public exchanges, but he did eventually end up making that mistake, which costed him dearly. Out of all the mistakes he made, this was the one landed him into jail. On September 9th, 2019, Jimmy sold 118 Bitcoins on an exchange. A year later, Jimmy moved his Bitcoin around, and at that time, his exchange address got linked to the mix, and he became traceable.
I'm gonna need you guys look away because this is gonna be my password.
If you're confused, think of it this way. In 2019, Jimmy used legitimate coins on the exchange, but in 2020, The coins he was mixing were the ones he stole from Silk Road. Feds put the two and two together and descended upon both of Jimmy's houses.
It's like the equivalent of your hot wallet, where you say you have
Yeah,
1,500.
this
This
is
is your play money.
This is the hot wallet, and then
In the raid, they found a Cheeto popcorn box in a bathroom cabinet which contained $3.4 billion in Bitcoin. In the end, Jimmy was charged with wire fraud, and after admitting guilt, he was sentenced to 1 year and 1 day in federal prison. At 33 years old, he started serving his sentence at the Montgomery, Alabama, federal prison camp on July 14, 2023. Ultimately, Jimmy didn't get to keep the stolen Bitcoin. The US government took control of the assets and set up a process for victims of the hack to request their Bitcoin back. However, no one came forward, which wasn't surprising since most Silk Road users in 2012 were involved in illegal activities like drug dealing. The government ended up selling the recovered Bitcoin and kept the profits. Before his sentencing, Zhong told the judge that having billions in stolen Bitcoin made him feel important. So basically, Uncle Sam decided to keep it for itself, leaving Jimmy with not even a single dime. The outcast turned crypto kingpin was excommunicated from his lavish life within a year. What do you think? Was Jimmy too obvious and making too many mistakes that eventually led to his downfall? Or was he another victim of a broken system that can take everything from you in a blink of an eye? Let us know in the comments below.